Hello, I'm Kimberly Acosta. Welcome to this edition of the Native News Update on Thursday, December 24th. Many of the stories you hear here can be found at our website, IndianCountryNews.com, or you can check out IndianCountryTV.com. And here's the news for the day from the Associated Press and other Native news sources. Curtis Bunnell of Burnt Church First Nation, who is charged with committing the first-degree murder of his 16-year-old cousin Hillary on September 5th, appeared via satellite on December 21st from a detention center and told the court he hadn't yet found a lawyer to represent him in the case. Provincial Court Judge Jerry Mahoney granted Bunnell until January 18th to find a lawyer and return to enter a plea. Standing outside the courtroom following his appearance, Hillary's mother Pamela said the holidays would not be the same this year without her daughter. "It's hard," she said. "Christmas isn't Christmas without her. I'd rather not have Christmas at all." A northern Arapaho man pleaded guilty December 22nd in tribal court to killing a bald eagle in 2005 for the use in his tribe's Sundance. Winslow Friday, who is in his mid-20s, entered the plea on the Wind River Reservation in central Wyoming. He was fined $2,500 and had his hunting privileges suspended on the reservation for a year. Friday has acknowledged that he has shot the eagle without a permit, but the question of whether he should be prosecuted has prompted a protracted legal fight and attracted national attention in Native American religious circles. Friday had faced up to a year in jail and a possible $100,000 fine in federal court before the U.S. Attorney's Office in Cheyenne agreed to transfer his case to tribal court. The Chevron Corporation will pay $45.5 million to resolve claims that it underpaid natural gas royalties to the government and Native Americans. Most of the settlement money will be distributed to federal, state, and American Indian accounts affected by underpayments. More than $12.3 million of the amount will go to the heirs of the whistleblower who filed the lawsuit in Beaumont, Texas. The settlement includes Chevron companies Texaco, Unocal, and other affiliates. The government contended that the companies made improper deductions from royalty values and violated the False Claims Act by underpaying the royalties. And now we have a short update of two issues from Alaska with Alaska Public Radio Networking News Director Lori Townsend. Lori Townsend, News Director for the Alaska Public Radio Network, joins us now. Lori, what's making the news in Alaska today?
Hi, Kim. Well, unfortunately, we have kind of a bad case of deja vu today. There was a spill last night on Bly Reef, which is where the Exxon Valdez oil tanker ran aground 20 years ago. It was the worst oil spill in the nation's history, between 11 million and some estimates as high as 19 million gallons of crude oil spilled into Prince William Sound, a beautiful, pristine area that has never fully recovered. Some experts say it may never recover. There's still oily spots on the beach from that spill. This was a tugboat that was scouting for icebergs, one of the escort tugs that's now in place in Prince William Sound to escort the tankers in and out of the area where they offload crude oil from the North Slope. It hit Bly Reef and damaged a couple of tanks, ripped about a 4 to 5 foot hole in the keel, and there's a 3-mile long spill, but they're not sure yet how much of the diesel fuel, it was not crude oil, it was diesel,
Wow.
Not sure how much is spilled, up to perhaps as much as 33,000 gallons.
What does it take to clean something like that up?
Well, they've got containment booming around it now, and they have just a short window of time that they actually can clean it up. A lot of it will dissipate because it is diesel, so a lot of it evaporates. But they're there now, the Coast Guard's on site, they're containing it with absorbent booming and trying to clean it up. Other fishing vessels and other folks have responded. It's a very sore point with people in that area because it absolutely devastated the commercial and subsistence fisheries for Native people, for non-Native people in that area. Many people went out of business, and they got their settlement with Exxon just recently, but it was cut way, way down by the courts. So people are left with a real bad memory of that time, and now this on Christmas Eve, another spill in that area.
Wow. I understand there's a federal deadline coming up for tribal comment on subsistence management in Alaska. What's happening with that?
Well, it's the subsistence management program that's in the state now. The state and federal constitutions are out of sync with each other. The federal mandate is that there's a preference for rural people so that they have first access to fish, game, and gathering resources in times of shortage. And the state constitution says Alaska has equal access, so they're out of compliance. Federal managers have taken over subsistence management because of that. And now the federal system has decided that Secretary Salazar, Department of Interior Secretary Salazar, has said that the system's broken, that we can't assume the state will ever change their constitution and come into compliance with federal mandates. So federal managers are going to overhaul the system, and they've asked the tribes and the state to comment. And the deadline is coming up around the end of the month. That's when the Interior Department would like the comments to be in, but they're not setting a hard and fast deadline, but they are strongly encouraging tribes to get those comments in. The Alaska Intertribal Council, which is representative of all the tribes in the state, is trying to call all 229 tribal councils and saying, get those comments in there. And so they have written Salazar asking for an extension, but they want that extension only for the tribes, not for the state. And AITC would also like to see the subsistence management in the hands of the tribes and not go back to state control. There is some concern in the tribal community that the Alaska Native for-profit corporations will have too much say in what happens with the management, and the tribes don't want that. They want to have direct government-to-government relationship with the federal government and not have the corporations involved at all.
Well, I thank you for joining us today. Can you tell us where people can learn more about these stories?
Absolutely, Kim. They can go to www.aprn.org. That's Alaska Public Radio Network.
Lovely. Well, I look forward to talking to you again.
Thanks, Kim. Nice to see you.
Bye. You too. See you.
In James Cameron's new 3D sci-fi blockbuster Avatar, Cherokee movie star Wes Studi lends his voice and a face to a computer-generated character whose planet is being invaded by a private army bent on exploiting its resources. Leader of a resistance is a familiar role for Studi. Whether in Geronimo, an American legend, Last of the Mohicans, or Dancing with Wolves, Studi has played the indigenous man who fights against incursion. Critics have called the alien epic Avatar a version of Dances with Wolves because it's about a white guy going native and becoming a great leader. They also are saying Avatar is just the latest sci-fi rehash of an old white guilt fantasy. We'll keep you posted on further discussions regarding Avatar and its issue with race. In an unusual agreement to protect a Utah canyon decorated by ancient Native American art is expected to allow energy development to move forward. The pact is scheduled to be signed January 5th by federal and state agencies, conservation and archaeology groups, tribal leaders, and a Denver-based natural gas producer. It calls for road work to cut down on abrasive dust that can erode the rock art panels of 9 Mile Canyon. The canyon, actually 78 miles long, has been called the world's longest art gallery, with thousands of prehistoric drawings. Bill Barrett Corporation is awaiting federal environmental approval to add 800 gas wells on high plateaus that are accessible only from 9 Mile Canyon. And that's the latest roundup of news from Indian Country on this edition of the Native News Update. I'd like to wish you a safe and happy holiday, and have a grand day.